I am on the road today and I figured I would talk a little bit about this last video that I did, um, and kind of why I did it there. Actually gotten a fair bit of response on it, through some different social media platforms and stuff like that, and private messages and whatnot there. So I'll kind of explain what the idea of that was there. So when I got the truck, I was originally thinking I could just basically get it, a $1,500 truck, bring it home, clean it up a little bit. And then it turned into like, well, being it was a California truck, I thought it would be super easy. I didn't really super deep dive into it. And then as I got looking more, there was more and more like rust holes and spots. And to be totally honest, every single panel needed to be basically either patched or, you know, uh, had some new metal put into it or whatever. And so I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to show like somebody on a budget, whether it be like a 16-year-old kid or even younger than that, really, somebody working towards having a truck when they're 16 or vehicle or whatever. Um, I will say I used this particular truck for a purpose because with square bodies, if you guys are familiar with square bodies are easy to basically change panels on. And so that was kind of the idea here. So I could have easily went through and patched all that stuff or changed panels or done whatever. That wouldn't have been any kind of problem at all. It would have been, I mean, honestly, I've done that lots of times. It's not really that difficult of a process. But what the point I was trying to get across was what happens is everybody tries to get into these gigantic projects. So then you tear the bed off of it. That truck had mechanical problems too, right? So the brakes weren't working. It was running terribly, all this stuff. So then it compounds the problem of maybe you're kind of inexperienced or you don't have a whole bunch of time or whatever. And now you're going to add a giant like body work and paint job to it. And so that was part of, again, why I kind of did it the way I did it there, because if you get in over your head, you're just not going to be able to finish it. And then you end up having one of these trucks that you're going to finish one day, or you throw it on marketplace for dirt cheap because you know it's in pieces and nobody really wants it because nobody wants to take on that big of a project. So the idea again was being, okay, what can we do for a fairly sensible time frame here on a fairly sensible budget? How can we do this like in a backyard or a garage or a driveway or something like that without having basically a bunch of fancy tools and stuff. And with the square body being what it is that once it's painted, you have the ability to basically go back and start changing panels if you want. So like I use some stage single rating paint. And so with the single stage paint there, a lot of people say don't paint first paint jobs with single stage paint. And honestly, I have painted in the past a fair bit, but this gun that I have, this 3M gun, I think that makes the world of difference. And so I use single stage with metallic in it, which they say is the hardest paint to start painting with. And so, in my opinion, I thought it was actually the easiest paint I've ever painted with. As long as you have the general idea of how basically to use the paint gun and just move your strokes, let off. I mean, honestly, you can spray single stage paint it, and not really even have to cut and buff it if you don't really want to, and it actually looks pretty professional. So I think that 3M gun is definitely the big difference maker there. A lot of people say they'll just go and they'll use the cheap guns. I've tried the cheap guns and I had terrible luck with them. I tried I tried base clear with some cheaper guns and stuff like that. And I just never had any good success. As a matter of fact, I have two pretty much brand new guns that I'm probably never going to use. So probably end up selling those or giving them away at some point or whatever. But basically, this 3M gun is so easy to work with. Anybody can use it. It's a one-time investment. But if you didn't have it, I would say, yeah, just go buy the cheap Harbor Freight gun. You just might not have as good a results. I don't know because I just haven't had great luck with it. So again, the idea being I basically used a similar paint color to what the interior was, so I didn't have to deal with painting the interior. I painted the truck with single stage, so if down the road, okay, so I patched all these holes and stuff like in the fenders, for example, and it's not perfect, and maybe there's little dings and dents still in the body. You could go back, you could pull a fender off, you buy a brand new fender. I think you could still get them for like $130 or something like that. A brand new fender. You can change a fender, paint it off the truck, put it back on, and it's going to match perfectly because you can get this paint from Summit Racing, this thing single stage paint. So again, it's a way to do it without having to spend a whole bunch of time and money doing it. So again, in my opinion, I just think it's like a cheaper solution. So remember, start with a truck that had, needed wheels and tires, it needed brake work, was running terribly. Um, the interior was pretty filthy when I got it. There's holes in both fenders, holes in the rocker panels, or the cab corners. The cab itself was actually pretty solid otherwise. The rockers and everything are really good. Um, but the cab corners are just small holes. It would have been easy to patch it properly, no problem. But again, I was just showing with Bondo that you could easily do this. So um, you could see as I went along there, I ran into the problem in the back, right? Where it was full of Bondo already, and they actually did a decent job at it, but it was probably a long time ago and it started spider cracking. So again, you would have spent all this time to try to make it perfect and then realize that, oh, okay, now I've got this like huge spot of Bondo in the back and it's not going to be perfect anyways because there's no real way to fix that other than to change that bedside. And again, those bedsides, I don't remember. I think LMC sells them for about maybe like $900 each, I think, if I remember right. So just got to put that in perspective. Like, you could change two bedsides for $1,800, two front fenders, probably another 250. And so, you got a few $1,000s more into the truck, but a fair bit more work. You'd have to take the bed off, you'd have to take the whole front end off. But that's maybe something that you can get it running and driving, paint it, and then do that down the road. Okay, well now we go back, we slap some paint on it, like just take the new bed sides, paint them off of the truck. Same with the fenders, paint them off of the truck or whatever, and then put them back on when you have time. You don't have to do it all at once. You could just do the bed sides first. You can do one bed side at a time, whatever. Like these are things that you can do in a weekend without having to like basically be a huge ordeal of having, again, if you're just doing it in your driveway or if you have a small garage or something like that, where you're not getting over your head with a project that's just way too much work. So I think that's a super affordable way of doing it. And it's just kind of, I think I think for, like I said, somebody inexperienced, you could make it look better than it did, significantly better than it did, but also you don't have the problem of where you need all these specialty tools and you get an overhead time wise and things like that. So that's kind of why I did that the way I did it or whatever. Let me see what we got going on. Yeah. So so that was kind of why I just did it on a super cheap budget. Like I said, I have the ability. I could have made that a really nice truck, but it would have taken a lot more time. Even what I did, if I would have taken what I did and spent more time on it, like I was running out of time. I wanted to get this video out of it. I've had this truck sitting around here for months already, so I wanted to get the video out on it. But I could have, even with the Bondo, I could have easily, went and probably, like I could have done a decent job on it and had no problems doing that or whatever. What's going on, guys? So, yeah, anyways, I mean, like I said, I could have made it almost perfect probably if I would have spent another it probably would have taken me honestly of tinkering around, it probably would have taken me another week to make it like close to looking perfect, but I just wasn't wanting to spend that time because again, that wasn't the idea behind this project. So I just wanted something that looked way better than when I started. It was a uniform color. I didn't have to change interior color. I bought those wheels and tires for like I kept thinking it was so long since I bought them. I thought I paid 200, but it was $400. So it's $400 for actually some pretty decent wheels. I buffed them up. Um, they looked actually really good after they were buffed there or whatever, and they matched the color of the truck. They they matched they matched the interior pretty good or whatever, and I just thought it looked pretty decent. And the tires were probably 90% on there, so you would have paid $400 just for the tires anyways, if not even a bit more probably. So basically, I got the wheels for free, and it was a nice looking upgrade. So I thought that was decent. Like I said, they weren't perfect; they were scuffed a little bit, and they had the wrong locking things for the screws or whatever. It was just a regular screw that they had put in. But again, like it's something that looks way better than it did. It's a huge improvement on what it was there. You don't have to you don't have to have any fancy tools or anything like that. I would say the hardest part of that whole project was dealing with the um, pretty much dealing with getting the brake I guess the brake lines changed, and that was more of a not because it was hard, it was an access thing. And I think I have like 2,300 bucks into this thing all said and done with the truck and everything. And so I could have actually done it cheaper. Like I changed the entire caliper or the brake calipers, the hoses, the pads, everything, and I could have just put hoses on it. It would have been fine. There was nothing wrong with the other stuff, but I got a discount on it, so it was fairly affordable there. Didn't really have to spend a whole bunch of money to upgrade that stuff. So it I just did it just because then the next person knows where they're starting. And so there are some problems with this. You're going to get that. You're thinking a truck that's like 50 years old already, pretty much. So you're going to have some issues. You can't expect to buy a used vehicle in general these days, even new ones. I mean, I have problems with my new vehicles all the time. So you have to expect you have to be able to work on it and kind of do some of that stuff yourself. But overall, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. For really, that's something I think you could have done in a hard week work or maybe a long week worth of evenings and basically some basic tools and a little bit of basic knowledge. So, like I said, overall, I was pretty happy with it. I think it turned out all right, and it increased the value of the truck for sure. I'll probably sell it and move on to something else. Just I every time I register one, it costs me money and everything like that. So really, I'm just doing it to get to the point where the next people can do something with it. But it seems to run pretty decent now. Needs a choke wire basically hooked up now because it was a manual choke or it was the heat riser style choke before. So it needs electric choke wire hooked up to 12 volts. Couple things like that, but overall, it really is a pretty solid truck. The only regret I have is I wish I would have thought about it when I was painting it. I should have dragged the air hose outside and came in from the back door and painted the bed inside because it was actually spraying pretty decent. It would have just tidied up a little bit there and made it that it just probably would have been a little bit probably would have been just looked a little bit cleaner or whatever. I was thinking of bed lining it, but I I might. It's only like I said, $130. I just like I said, it's getting it to the point where somebody else can do something with it. So it's basically a truck now that somebody can just jump in, drive a couple little basic things or whatever, and it could be a daily driver. You guys were watching from the very, very beginning when I had this channel there was a first truck I did. I didn't know what I was doing video wise and all that stuff. Just wasn't really intending on turning it into what it is now. But the truck that I did is my first video there. That truck's actually for sale. I sold it to a guy not too far from me there. And I guess the transmission is bad now. It's been sitting outside in some deep grass. So it looks like it started getting rust. It kind of needs everything again. Um, and he lost the keys for it. He still wants the same price I sold it to him for. Don't think he's going to get it. The inside is filthy. The I ended up because we had put well not new seats, but we put used seats in it out of like I think it was like a 2008 ish Silverado. So those seats in it. Good thing I put seat covers on it, but it's like filthy inside. We put new carpet. The carpet is just packed with dirt. Looked like he was using it for like a work truck or whatever. But so if that truck ever was to get cheaper, I'd like to buy it back again just to use it for another project. I think that would be kind of fun, but I just wouldn't be willing to pay in a condition that it's in now. I wouldn't be willing to pay $4,500 for it. That's I think actually I sold it to him for maybe four. So he's actually asking more, I think, than I sold it to him for. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at on that. But I don't know what you guys think, Larry. Like I said, if you guys have done any kind of like hoopty cheapo style paint and body projects like this or whatever, I I'd like to kind of hear from you guys. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what everybody else is doing. A lot of people get wrapped up in these huge projects and just ends up being uh, much work for them to finish up or whatever, and that's what I was kind of trying to get away from with this one. I will eventually have a couple view my son's square body there when we do that one. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but I'm going to do, I would say, the best job I do on body and paint and everything like that. So we can make that truck look pretty decent. But it's the same thing, it's a 50-year-old truck and it has dings and dents and stuff like that. He lost that axle last year, so there's a huge dent in the cab, which is in a really bad spot, and that's going to be really hard to fix because you can't just replace that, right? So that's going to be a little bit of a problem there probably to fix that or whatever, but it'll just take a lot more work with sanding and bondo and just pulling the dents or whatever you got to do there. So it's just going to take a lot more time. So it's all in kind of what kind of quality you're looking for. I have so many vehicles that I don't have to have. Every one doesn't have to be really nice or really fast or you know perfect or whatever. Like I've got all different varieties. I've got it that my LS swapped 85 Camaro, so I'd like to get back to that pretty soon. I've got 63 Tempest Le Mans there. And the only reason I haven't started on that one more seriously is because I don't have the space to take it apart, and I want to make that one pretty nice. I have this 1977 AMC Matador. Got that thing from basically a disaster to kind of being okay, and got it to a point where the next guy can do something with it. Actually, as a matter of fact, I got a call from the guy in New York, and he's interested in it and wants to either ship it or something like that. So I think I might end up meeting him this week yet to sell that thing. It's actually a car I don't really want to sell, but I could use the I could use some of the money for building a shop and stuff like that. Shops are pretty expensive, and I don't want to borrow money, so that's kind of I'm thinking of getting rid of that one. But otherwise, I'll keep it because it's super cool and definitely super unique. And I'll probably never find another triple black 360 Matador factory air conditioning. You know, just probably not going to see another one of those again in my lifetime, at least not for a sensible price. Like that. It is what it is. So from Florida, finally. Yeah, the clutch went out on it finally, and basically it just was time to get rid of it. So I sold it for a little bit of a loss. I put $1,000. I bought $1,000 worth of clutch parts for it and gave it to the guy. So I lost probably $1,000 owning it, but we drove it for all summer and everything like that. So it's okay with. I could live with that and let somebody else do something with it. That car was pretty solid actually. It really just needed paint and the clutch, and it would have been probably pretty good car or whatever. But I was kind of done with it. I just bought it really to get home that time, and I would have lost all the money on a flight anyway. So that's why that one. So what else there? Yeah, just a little bit of short on some gravel for my shop pad there, and then that thing will be ready for concrete. So yeah, I mean we're moving forward. The biggest thing is like it's all this stuff is so expensive these days, but um yeah, like I said, I'd like to get this Matador sold and get moving on that. So we'll kind of see maybe this week if that ends up happening. I might even make a little bit of content out of it so you guys can kind of see. But so I just wanted to touch base. Curious to see what you guys think of kind of what I did with that truck, and if it's something that you guys would do or have done or whatever, or maybe you got some ideas on ways to kind of do things quick like that without spending a bunch of time and money, so that you can, if you're younger and you don't have a big budget to work with or whatever and things like that. If you just want to do it super cheap, that's probably the way to do it. So all right, guys. Well, I'm gonna duck out here. My service is kind of not the best here, but I'll probably check back. I've got a video coming tomorrow that is going to show you the inflatable paint booth there that I used for that project, and I'll kind of give you the pros and cons of what that was and why I think it's good in some ways and not in the other ways. But it's definitely a solution in a lot of ways. But I'll kind of show you that. I'll cut off and I'll probably do a video again on Monday if I've got time and show you guys kind of what that was all about and kind of maybe get your guys' input on that. All right, guys. Catch you on the next one.